Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Crafty Concepts with Erin. I'm Erin and I really would love to know, are you the type that adds a novel to each and every scrapbook layout, or perhaps one that just adds the basics? Who, what, when, where, and why? Maybe you don't add any journaling at all. Either way, there's no right or wrong answer, but I have 10.5 ways that I like to incorporate journaling onto my layouts, and I can't wait to share them with you. So let's go! Journaling strips, method number 1. For those of you that have been watching my channel for a while, you know how much I love journaling strips. I do this technique probably more often than any of the others. So this is a layout I've done recently, and you can see I have printed these out on white cardstock, cut them out so I can stagger them back and forth to give them character. I'm going to show you how I do this here in a moment using a Word document or Pages, and you just add a text box. Super simple. So this is one example, and then you'll notice each one is just one solid strip. Here is another example where I've used word strips, and this one's a little bit different because I have added inking to the edges of those just to help them pop against the background. So one thing I really love about word strips is that I have a lot of pattern paper on this layout, and I wanted my journaling in this area. If I had printed out a large block of white cardstock and added my journaling, it would have hidden most of this pattern paper. So this allows that to show through, and I just love that. Here's another example, same thing. There's not very much of this green plaid pattern paper, but because I've cut it into strips, you can really see that peeking through, and it shows a lot more of that color. And you'll notice here, I actually, instead of keeping it in long strips like I typically do, like on this one here, long strips across, I've actually put in a few breaks in between just for even more, fun and something different. So I'm going to show you really quick on the screen how I do this. So I have a MacBook which has Pages. So I just click New Document. We want a blank page, and then you're going to go up to the very top where it says Insert, go down to Text Box, and now you have a text box, and you can size this to whatever size you have that your layout allows. So I'm just going to pretend, and we're going to type in some journaling here, and I always like to include a little memory about the day, just kind of the highlight and the date, at the bare minimum. Not all layouts have a big story to tell, right? And that's okay. So, I like to mention the people and where we were, just kind of the who, what, when, where, and why. And now once I've got my typing done, I'm going to highlight this whole section, and then we're going to double space it. So highlight it, go over to the line spacing. You can do 1.5 to 2, but that is going to give you room to cut out your strips. I like a little guillotine trimmer for this. This is the Fiskars personal photo trimmer. So you just cut those out, and then I'm going to use my scissors to trim up the left and right if need be. This one has a little bit more space. It was shorter than the other sentences, and then they are ready to go on your layout. And it's so easy to stagger these. Like I said, it just gives them some character, and you can fill that space. I definitely recommend using liquid glue when you adhere your journaling strips, because that is going to allow you a little bit of time to wiggle those into place and get them straight. You can use a tape runner, but if you get it down crooked, you're going to have to peel that up, and some tape runners can kind of damage your layout. So again, I just like the liquid glue. And for those that have been watching my channel for a while, you've probably seen me do this numerous times. Now, let's say you don't have access to a printer, you're at a retreat or somewhere else scrapbooking, and you can always simply handwrite right on the journaling strips. So these actually came with this collection. They have a little box around the outside edge just to give it a little bit more definition, and I just hand wrote my journaling right on there. Super simple. And here is another example where I cut strips that matched my paper here and just wrote right on them. I didn't have a lot of space left on this layout for journaling, so this allowed me to go right over the pictures and incorporate it right into the layout design. So just another option, super simple handwriting right on the journaling strips. Now, while we're on the, journaling strip topic, you're probably thinking, how the heck do you have 10.5 ways to add journaling? So I consider this halfway because it is still strip journaling, but this is a little bit different because I've used my label maker. So this is just a super inexpensive Dymo Electrotag label maker I got at my office supply store, and I'm going to kind of look into, a fancier model to see if it has more options, but I love taking this to retreats because I can do this journaling. So literally you just type it in and you hit print, there it goes. You can put clear paper in there, there's white plastic or white paper, and I love doing this. So then you just cut it and you have your little journaling strip ready to go, and you can just peel the backing off and stick it right on your layout. And that is how I did these particular strips right here, was with my label maker. So definitely something I like to do when I'm traveling and I don't have my computer and printer with me. So always something to keep in mind. Method number 2, flip flaps. Flip flaps are so fun because you can incorporate a ton of additional photos and journaling. So I have this one in the page protector. I apologize for the glare of the plastic there, but I have to show you how the flip flap works. So it adheres to the outside of the page protector. So you don't have to take the layout out in order to flip up your picture, and you can incorporate, like I said, extra journaling. So I have an additional photo under here. Let me see if I can hide that glare. So I have 3 3x4 photos directly across the left-hand side of this page, right? And there wasn't much room for journaling, and I kind of had a lot to say about this adventure. So you just flip this up and you have your journaling tucked away right there, and it makes this fun interactive element. And again, like I said, you can add more photos. You can stack multiple flip flaps on top of each other too, so it has, you can incorporate even more photos. This is a 3x4. They come in 4x6, all different sizes. Here, let me grab the catalog and see really quick. So you can find the flip flaps in the core catalog towards the back, and they have all these different sizes. But there's an example on this layout. Look at all the different, flaps. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different flip flap interactive elements on that layout, where you can just add more pictures, journaling, and embellishments. So super fun. And they are, the smallest is a 2x2, and they go all the way up in varied sizes to an 8x12. So you can do some really cool stuff with flip flaps. But again, that's just one of my favorite ways to add journaling when I have a lot to say, because like I said, you can just, and it doesn't interrupt the design, because I would have had to have left out one of these pictures or maybe some of the decorative elements, and that's really part of the fun. And those embellishments and decorative elements on the page help tell the story. So I don't want to leave those out. So this is the best of both worlds with the flip flap. Here is another double page layout I did, and this one has a 4x6 flip flap. So you can see, again, we have a lot of photos on this layout, but I had even more to incorporate. So I've got 2 photos that I've cut down into 3x3 squares, so they might be 2.5 squared. And then I printed up the story on a pocket card and included that in the inside of the flip flap. And I just think that is so fun. And again, I get to include all those photos and still have the story included on the layout. So 4x6 flip flap, and this one is hinging to the top. Again, you can, orient them. If your page went this way, you could flip it open like this. They're super versatile depending on the design of your layout. Method number 3, journaling pockets. When you have a big story to tell, flip flaps is one way you can include all that journaling, but another way is to create a pocket. So this is a layout I did of my son at his school play. It was their Christmas production, and it was a big deal. So I had a lot to include in the story behind these photos. So I created this little pocket where I used my tabs thin cut, and I just created a little tab to pull the journaling right out. And I did journal this on, or I typed this up and printed it on white cardstock, so it is the same, heavy duty material, and it'll slide in and out. You wouldn't want to put that on regular paper because it wouldn't be rigid enough to slide into your pocket. So I should add that like for my journaling strips, when I use a text box, I always use a text box, even if I'm just printing it like this, because I can control the size that I want my journaling to be. So when you're creating a pocket, I highly recommend you use a product like this adhesive, this red line tape, or like heavy duty score tape, because anytime you have an interactive element, you don't want this lifting off that we've created our pocket with, and it could if you use just ordinary adhesive. So for this particular layout on this blue cardstock piece, the dark blue, I made that just slightly wider than my journaling piece, and I put a piece of this red line tape all the way down from the top and bottom on the right, the bottom, and the left hand side, so that this is contained in that pocket and it can't just slide off to either side or fall out the bottom. And you want to give it enough room so it can slide in and out comfortably. If it's too tight, then it is difficult to get that in there. Another style of pocket would be this, for example. This is, you guys might recognize this picture. This is my public profile picture on YouTube and some of my social media sites like Instagram. And so I decided to scrapbook about my YouTube journey and use that picture because it kind of made sense being my public profile picture. This journaling was very personal to me, so I had a lot to say and I wanted it kind of hidden. So you'll notice I cut a slit right in the page here, right in the pattern paper. I hole punched a tiny little hole on either side, and when you do that, it keeps it from ripping as opposed to if you had a straight line. So that's why you see those two little holes, and then we just tuck our journaling right in there. Again, I printed that on pattern paper and cut the little tab, and it says pull here. I created that with a stamp. Now, just like this one, I created a pocket. I used a piece of cardstock on the back. I cut it slightly larger and used that same heavy duty red adhesive tape to do the sides and the bottom. So that is definitely not going to lift off when you are pulling that in or out. Another style of pocket would be something like this, where I've created this adorable little library card and pocket. I did this with the date stamp and thin cut, so you get the stamp to create the library card, and then it cuts it out with these nice round corners, and then you get the piece that creates the pocket. So it has the score lines and everything. Now, what they don't show you on the front of the stamp is there's all these dates and different phrases that you can customize. So I chose remember this day, and then I put the day that he actually earned the honor roll. So that's what we were documenting here on this layout. But now I can just slide this right out the top and then put that journaling back in. And you'll notice for each one of these, they can be, reached from a top loading page protector. So I put this all the way at the top, so you don't have to pull the layout out to pull the journaling out. You just kind of reach through the top of the page protector, and the same here. It's a little bit farther down, but you can just reach in the top and pull that journaling out. But same thing with this little pocket card. I would still use that red line tape to hold down your pocket. So again, anytime you're lifting, you're putting pressure on that and you don't want it to come off over time. Method number 4, print and die cut. So I love the print and die cut option because it just adds your journaling in such a fun way. You can see here on this page, my journaling is on this tag. Now, unless you have a typewriter, it would be hard to type on that. So I print it out. I have some examples here on just some printer paper. And then you have your die cuts. These are some of my favorite shapes to use. So I have the tags and tabs thin cut set and the buildable tags. So all you would do is measure your die cut shape. So let's say we're going to use this one, for example, and you're just going to measure the area you have to work with. So this is about 2 3/4 by 2 inches. So I'm going to make my text box slightly smaller than that. So we'll have a nice white margin, and then I can, print that out, and then I line my die cut over the area, tape it down with some post-it removable tape, and then run that through my die cutting machine. Now let's say I wanted my tag to go this way on the layout. I can simply adjust my text box to the same size but in that orientation. And I have this is all the exact same text. So here I've shrunk it down just a little bit and made it fit my circle. So I could cut my my journaling out with a circle element and have, all these fun ways of adding the story with a die cut. So here's an example with a tag again, and I just layered it over and then added some embellishments afterwards. Here is another one I created with a tag, so a little bit different tag just for a different look. I printed my journaling, cut it out, and then added some stamped images on top of the tag just for a fun different little twist. Now if you don't have a die cutting machine, you can also cut it into shapes. So here's an example where I printed it out the same way, just on a little piece of paper, and then cut it into a decorative banner element for added character. I don't have an example on a layout to share with you, but how fun would it be to cut your journaling out with a heart die cut or a thin cut? Or even these are the stitched fancy brackets from the core catalog. So they're 2 nesting dies. I use these a ton on my cards and my scrapbook layouts, but imagine cutting your journaling out with those fun decorative edges and stitching details. So lots of fun ways to dress up an otherwise ordinary journaling block. Method number 5, vellum. Printing on vellum always gives such a soft, lovely look. I really enjoy doing this technique. So Close to My Heart sells vellum in 12 by 12 sheets. And as you can see, I have some scraps in here. So I usually will trim them down to pieces that are like 4 by 6 or 3 by 5. And then I type up again in a text box. You could tell I really rely heavily on the text box, but I just print it right through my printer. Sometimes it will smear. So when you first print it on vellum, you do need to set that aside and allow it to have time to dry. And I do find it helpful if I set my printer settings to plain paper, so not like a photo glossy paper or anything like that, and then it tends to smear less. So it is adhered under the flower and again under the picture here, because whenever you use adhesive or certain types of adhesive, it will show through on the vellum. So I tend to just be mindful of that when I am designing my layout. But as you can see, it just allows that pattern paper to show through, and it just really blends in beautifully with the layout. Here is another example. And again, you can see that gorgeous orange plaid paper right behind the journaling, and it just has this seamless transition into the layout design. So it's nice and legible, easy to read, and just fits that space perfectly. So again, when I am planning this out, I would measure how much space do I have. So I would just take my ruler and I would know, okay, I've got about 1.5 inches by about 3 inches. So I would take that information, make my text box that size, and then I always end up with a, journaling piece that will fit the area I have on hand. Here is another layout, very similar. This was the same collection. It was such a fun Halloween collection. This was Boo Crew. I really enjoyed it. But again, I just wanted that orange pattern paper to show through, so I added my journaling right onto the vellum. Every once in a while, my printer will say that there's no paper. It's like not reading the vellum, and I just have to try a couple times and it ends up taking it. But that's, not the norm. But again, I just absolutely love this technique and think printing on vellum is definitely a great option. Method number 6, transparency printing. Printing on transparency sheets is actually something new to me. I follow Hiba over at My Little Journal, and she actually was using this quite a bit, and I thought I have to try that. That looks so cool. So Avery is the brand, and it's 8.5 by 11 clear shipping labels. These are full sheets, so I just trim them down as I need them. And you can see here I have a little piece left over, and I can, use that for an appropriate size journaling block. It's a sticker, and it is so easy. I did research it. It is acid-free and non-yellowing, so very, very important for longevity and the safety of our albums. So you can see here I have this beautiful paper on this 3x4 card, and I really wanted those trees to show through, and vellum kind of hid it a little bit too much. So this transparency paper was absolutely perfect. It looks like it was printed right on the 3x4 card here, and I just think it looks so cool and it's so easy to use. Here's another layout I did very recently, just last week on my channel, and you guys probably caught me using it here, and I was going to wait and introduce it in this video, but I've been having so much fun with it. So it looks like it was printed right on that background paper. You can, I mean, if you really look hard, you might be able to pick out where the sticker is versus the paper, but not really. It's not noticeable, and it just looks so good and so easy to use. You just run it right through your printer, peel off the backing, and stick it to your layout. It's that easy. One thing to be mindful of, your words are black. They're printed in black, so they're not going to show up if you tried this method on a dark background, like a dark green or dark blue. It's just going to blend right in. And in case I had a dark background, that's when I would probably use my journaling strip technique, or one of the others that I've mentioned in this video. But yep, it is that easy. Again, I did find this on Amazon, and I'll leave that linked in the description box below if you want to check this out. Method number 7, pocket cards. Pocket cards are so fun and easy to use, and they're often an embellishment all on their own. Most collections come with coordinating pocket cards, and I always get them because I use them for journaling blocks, titles, and more embellishments to stretch my paper pack. Here is an example where I've just taken that pocket card and I've handwritten my journaling right in the lines provided. It made it super quick and easy, and I think it adds a pop of color, and it's just fun. Here is another pocket card where I hand wrote my journaling right on the card, and I like that it's a little bit different from the background, so there's it stands out, and it has the printed flowers on it, which kind of draws your eye down to the journaling. So very, very easy. And then this is a really quick and simple layout I did of my son. I don't know if you guys can see that. He's got a praying mantis crawling on his face. Boys. Anyway, this was a pocket card. It was absolutely perfect. It said nature, and again, I just hand wrote my journaling in the designated lines there. Very easy. Now here is a double page layout, one more example, where I just wrote on the pocket card, and again it coordinates, so it has these matching leaves across the top, and they already print the lines right on the pocket card there. Now I know what you guys are thinking. I can hear it. I don't like my handwriting, right? I hear it all the time, and I have to be honest, I'm not a big fan of my handwriting either, but I think it is so important to add a little bit of that into your albums. I do a lot of printing, but I do also try to incorporate my handwriting because I think that's a part of us. It's a part of who we are, and I know I love looking back at my grandmother's handwriting, and I recognize it, and I can see her, and just, it's a part of her. So, something to think about. Slow down. When I write fast, it gets really sloppy. So, and then there's also handwriting classes too, where we can work on that. I'm currently practicing lettering with the Melissa Esplin system. And when I'm good about practicing, it's going very well. But you can print on or type on journaling cards also. So remember this fall layout where I was showing you the flip flaps, that is a pocket card. It's a 4x6 pocket card, and I just ran that right through my printer and printed it directly on the pocket card. Now if you have something with lines like these do, that might be a little bit more difficult to get that lined up, obviously, but not all pocket cards have lines like that. So something to consider. Method number 8, stamp a journal block. I have a pretty big stamp collection, and I will leap for any opportunity to incorporate stamps onto my layout. So here is one where I simply stamped a journaling block, cut it out, and then hand wrote my little story behind this photo of my mom and my dogs. And super simple. These are kind of timeless classic stamps that you will use over and over and over again. Here is an example of one that I stamped directly onto the layout there. So I didn't even cut it out or stamp it on a piece of paper and cut it out. It's stamped directly onto the layout, and then I just included my journaling right onto the background paper there. This one here I created more recently, and I say it all the time. I think this is so adorable. It's the Love Story Scrapbooking Stamp and Thin Cut set, and it makes this little notepad here with the little rounded corners. So you, or I should say notebook paper, you just stamp it and then die cut it out, and then this is the result. I do find that when people are looking at my albums, they will ask questions like, where was that? Or when was that? And in this case, what horse were you riding? So I'm always sure to add those details into my journaling, even when there isn't a big story to tell. I do like to use a 0.01 or 0.03 size journaling pen when I'm doing this type of journaling. Method number 9, faux 12 by 12 printing. I call this technique faux 12 by 12 printing because very few of us have wide format printers, and even if you did have one capable of printing directly on a 12 by 12 sheet, you would have to know where you wanted your journaling ahead of time, because once all of your pictures and layers and embellishments are on, you don't want to run this through your printer. Trust me, I've tried. It's not good. So I call it faux 12 by 12 printing because it looks like it's printed on the background. We have this layout built on a sheet of white daisy cardstock, and this piece down here is one seamless piece, giving it the illusion that it is part of this upper piece as well. So I just trick my printer into thinking that it is just a letter size piece of paper, and it's 12 inches long by maybe only 3.5 inches wide, and I would put my text box in landscape mode and put it on the paper where I wanted it on the computer and hit print, and then I can slide this piece up underneath my pattern paper so it gives it that 12 by 12 printed background look. So definitely something I like to do when the design lends itself well to that application. Here's another example. Now this one's kind of funny because I actually wrote on this layout in my own handwriting, and it didn't look good. It was really bothering me and I had to fix it. So this was a attempt to camouflage a mistake and fix it, and it worked really well. So again, we have the illusion that it is printed on this background piece of cardstock, but it is in fact just this piece here that I've tucked under this border strip and under this pattern paper here, and no one would ever know except for all of you watching that I just told my secret to. Method number 10, just write it down. This technique is as easy as it sounds. Literally just write it down directly on your layout. So here you can see I've drawn lines. If you have a T-square ruler, this is super helpful. You can find these on Amazon or your local office supply store, very inexpensive, and it will, catch the edge of your paper and really help you get your lines straight. And you can draw them in a pencil and erase them, or leave the lines on there for a different look. So you can see I've done that here, and I think it looks nice and tidy. Here is an example where I just kind of freehanded it and went for it, and my handwriting's a little bit messy, but it kind of goes with the vibe of the layout, and I like it. Here's another one where I had just a little bit of space, so I did draw some lines and wrote our journaling next to our photos in this little area here. And then on this one, it's a little bit different, but we still wrote on the background. This is a layout I did quite some time ago now, but I did several areas. There's 1, 2, and 3. I like to do things in odd numbers, so you'll see groups of 3 and 5 quite a bit, but it's just kind of little bits of the story as you go through the layout. So there definitely is no right or wrong way to add journaling to your scrapbook pages. It is definitely a personal decision, and it really depends. If even if you are someone that likes to write a lot or just the bare minimum, for me, it depends on the photos. Some photos have a big story behind them, while others don't. So that really kind of determines what I'm going to do for my journaling on each individual layout. But I would love to hear what your go go-to default journaling style is, and leave that in the comments below. And maybe there was something that you like to do that I didn't mention in today's video, or which one of these methods are you excited to try? I appreciate you guys spending time with me today, and if you're looking for more inspiration, you can catch my scrapbooking playlist right here, or possibly this video here. And I can't thank you enough. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.